In the scorching heat of a northern summer, with the outdoor temperature reaching 40 degrees, the classroom was packed like a giant steam oven. The air was thick and stifling, with waves of heat rising from the floor and swirling around in the enclosed space. Sweat dripped down everyone's backs, clinging to their clothes, making them all so uncomfortable they wanted to get up and rush outside for fresh air. Yet, in this situation, the air conditioner on the wall, the only thing that could save the class, was sealed off like a useless decorative item, all because of one person. I sat in the middle of the crowd, feeling the heat burning every cell in my body. Unable to bear it any longer, the frustration rising in my throat finally made me stand up. Without a word, I walked straight to the podium, turned on the dusty air conditioner that hadn't been used in a long time, and then conveniently hid the remote control in my desk drawer. A beep echoed in the quiet space, so clear that the entire class simultaneously looked up. The first blast of cool air, gentle but enough to send shivers down one's spine. I stood directly under the vent, closing my eyes, letting the cool breeze caress my flushed face. Just 2 minutes, but it felt like I'd been pulled from hell back to earth. Soon the coolness spread throughout the room, the stifling heat dissipated, and the frowns on everyone's faces began to relax. Scattered sighs of relief filled the air and the sweat dried. The whole class felt revitalized. As soon as I sat down, my roommate leaned in and whispered in my ear, her voice a mixture of worry and excitement. "Did you turn it on? Be careful, she might find out and go crazy." Hearing that nickname only fueled my irritation. Su Ro, the class's beauty queen, was famous for her delicate, frail appearance, as thin as a willow branch in the wind. But that very fear became her excuse to control the entire class. She feared the heat in winter and the cold in summer. Not only could she not tolerate it herself, but she forced everyone else to. As long as she was present, the air conditioner was absolutely forbidden. Initially, some people resisted, but after the incident with Lin Ya, who dared to turn on the air conditioner in front of her, and was retaliated against to the point of losing her scholarship, missing out on the opportunity to join the class, and ultimately having to transfer classes, no one dared to mess with her anymore. Nurk was like a venomous snake lurking in the shadows, quiet but always making others wary. Before, even at 35 degrees Celsius, I could endure it. But today, 40 degrees, a temperature that could cause heat stroke right in the classroom, I really couldn't take it anymore. I snorted coldly. Who did she think she was? An emperor, perhaps? Just then, the classroom door was pushed open. Nurk entered, carrying a stack of documents. In an instant, she felt a blast of cold air, her face immediately darkening. Her gaze swept across the class, sharp as a knife. She hurried to the air conditioner, searching for the remote but couldn't find it. Anger flared up, her shrill voice echoing throughout the room. "Who turned on the air conditioner? Are you blind? Don't you know I can't stand the cold?" The whole class fell silent. No one answered. No one looked at her. That silence irritated her even more than any resistance. She continued rummaging around, then turned to question each person. But all she received in return were innocent shakes of the head. In the heat that had just dissipated, no one was foolish enough to confess. Finally, under the schadenfreude-filled yet cold gazes, Su Ro returned to her seat, still muttering curses under her breath. I didn't bother to pay attention. But less than a few minutes later, my phone vibrated incessantly. Opening it, I saw a dozen messages in the class group chat, all tagged with my name. The sender, none other than Su Ro. "Su Meng, did you turn it on? If you're so brave, turn it on in front of me. It's so cold. If I get sick, will you be responsible?" Every word was laced with threat. I gave a cold laugh. Not responding wasn't my style. "Didn't your mother teach you how to speak properly?" I typed word by word. "Just because you're afraid of the cold doesn't mean others have to suffer the heat. This is a classroom, not your living room. If you can't stand it, put on another jacket or go outside." The message, once sent, was like a spark thrown into a pile of dry wood. The whole class immediately erupted. One person chimed in, the pent-up frustrations of the past 3 years pouring out. That's right. If it's hot, are you going to strip naked? If you're afraid of the cold, find a place to shelter from the wind. The atmosphere in the group chat heated up just as much as outside. Su Roro tried to protest, but her words grew weaker and weaker. I looked at the screen, a slight smile playing on my lips. This battle has only just begun. The atmosphere in the class group chat remained tense, messages flashing across the screen like sparks. I leaned back in my chair, phone in hand, my eyes coldly observing the back and forth. Su Roro was silent for a long time, as if trying to swallow her anger. But then she reappeared. This time her tone noticeably softer, carrying a hint of feigned weakness. Why should I wear an extra layer? You guys wear 1 layer and I have to wear 2? I must be sick. I chuckled softly, tapping my finger on the screen. You're so afraid of the cold. Aren't you actually sick? As soon as the message was sent, uncontrollable laughter erupted around us. My roommate clutched her stomach, laughing hysterically, and several others bowed their heads, their shoulders shaking. The atmosphere in the classroom suddenly lightened, as if the long-held tension had finally found an outlet. I turned my head to look out the window. To Nyuk Nyuk sat there, her face flushed with anger, her fingers frantically scrolling through her phone screen. It was obvious she was composing a new counterattack. Sure enough, less than 3 minutes later, another message arrived. Huamong, don't push your luck. I'm talking to you politely. What kind of attitude is that? You even dare say I'm sick? You're the one with the problem. Every word was distorted by rage. The air conditioner isn't yours. What right do you have to turn it on? Did you ask everyone's permission? Whoever wants to turn it on, come here and tell me. Reading this, I smirked. Before I could say anything, someone behind me couldn't help but interject. The whole class is enjoying it, don't you see? Why are you targeting Huamong alone? Another male voice chimed in, clearly showing dissatisfaction. We're really hot. We've put up with you before, so you should put up with it a little too, shouldn't you? Someone even suggested a compromise. How about this? Let's raise it from 22 degrees to 24 degrees. Everyone will be more comfortable. It seemed like a reasonable compromise, but Su Roro almost immediately retorted, No, I want it turned off completely, not even a little breeze. The answer was as sharp as a knife, cutting through the recently calmed atmosphere. Someone tried to mediate, speaking softly. How about you switch seats with me? I'll sit in the back row, guaranteed to be free from the wind. But Su Roro only sneered, her eyes filled with contempt. I wouldn't go down there. It's full of sweat and people dozing off. Where would I find a study atmosphere? As soon as she finished speaking, the whole class erupted in a commotion. Their patience had finally worn thin. This won't work. That won't work either. Do you think you're the center of the universe? If you can't stand it, buy yourself a glass cage and live in it. The voices became increasingly frantic, no longer restrained. I sat silently amidst the chaos, my gaze fixed on my phone screen. Su Roro still refused to give up. She switched to another reason, her tone sounding as if she were on the highest moral high ground. With the windows closed like this, there's no air circulation. Don't you feel suffocated? So many bacteria will multiply. You'll easily get air conditioning sickness. She didn't forget to drag others into it. There are many weak girls in the class like Li Na, Qin Xiaoyu, Zhao Zimeng. Don't you think about them? The names called out immediately lowered their heads even further, remaining silent as if they hadn't heard anything. I sighed, a feeling of annoyance rising within me. The air circulates in the hallway, I replied calmly. Or maybe I'll move the table out there for you to sit. The answer was simple, but it hit a nerve. Ton Yerk Nyuk was silent for a few seconds, then suddenly burst into laughter, a laugh laced with sarcasm. That's not right. You never targeted me like this before. What's going on this time? Are you jealous because I just got a permanent position and you got nothing? The whole class froze. She continued, her voice rising and falling as if trying to convince herself. You want me to get sick, don't you? You want me to lose my chance so someone else can take my place? I looked at the screen and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Jealous? I typed slowly, word by word. What am I jealous of? Your frail body that gets sick at the slightest breeze? Or your selfishness, making the whole class suffer in the heat for your own sake? I paused for a moment, then continued. Do you think getting a permanent position is such a big deal? With your situation, I'm afraid you'll collapse in their office before you even get a chance to start working. The atmosphere in the classroom froze for a split second. Then a loud thump echoed. Su Ruo Ruo was standing in front of me, her hands slamming down on the desk, her eyes bloodshot. Su Meng, haven't you said enough? I looked up at her, my gaze calm yet icy. Between the coolness of the air conditioner and the heat of my anger, we faced each other, neither willing to back down. The whole class fell silent, as if waiting for something to explode. In that moment, the space seemed stretched to its limit. The air conditioner's fan continued to blow steadily, but the atmosphere between me and Su Ruo was so heated that a single spark could ignite a fire. She stood before me, a head shorter, but still managed to crane her neck to look at me, her eyes filled with both anger and resentment. I sat still, neither avoiding her gaze nor showing any sign of yielding. My stare was cold and indifferent, as if I were watching a farce. Who do you think you are? She gritted her teeth, her voice trembling with anger. I haven't even started working yet, and you're already here cursing me? I subtly curled my lips, my voice slow but clear. I'm just stating the truth. You know your own health. Those words were like a knife piercing her pride. Su Ruo clenched her fists, her fingernails digging into her palms until they turned white. My affairs are none of your business, she snarled. Mind your own business. Do you have any plans for the future? Or are you still living day by day, spending your parents' money without shame? As soon as the words were spoken, several people in the class frowned in displeasure. A male student behind them couldn't help but speak up. Su Ruo, what kind of talk is that? Don't be so rude. Another person chimed in, their voice carrying a warning. Don't think that just because you passed the exam for a permanent position you're so great. You haven't officially been accepted yet. The atmosphere instantly shifted. Su Ruo was momentarily stunned, but then bristled like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. How dare you? If anything goes wrong with my work, I won't let it slide. I chuckled, a laugh so cold it felt strange even to myself. What did you just drink? Your breath stinks, I said bluntly without any reservation. Suspecting one person after another. Do you think everyone is like you? The whole class gasped, the tense atmosphere suddenly tinged with sarcasm. Su Ruo's face turned pale, then flushed red, her eyes darting back and forth, clearly losing control. She wanted to say something, but the words got stuck in her throat, leaving only heavy gasps. After a while, she smiled, a forced, distorted smile. Okay, Su Meng, just you wait. That sentence sounded so familiar that I didn't bother to pay attention. I've seen her antics too many times already. I scoffed disdainfully, turning back to continue what I was doing as if nothing had happened. Behind me, the murmuring continued. But this time, no one sided with Su Ruo anymore. From that day on, I stopped giving in. The air conditioning was on regularly every day, not only during class but also during breaks. Whether the outside temperature was 40 or 35 degrees, the classroom always remained pleasantly cool. Anyone who couldn't stand it had to find a way to adapt. Su Ruo initially caused trouble a few times, but each time she opened her mouth, the whole class reacted against her. Gradually, she only knew how to remain silent, her eyes filled with resentment, but she didn't dare make a big fuss in class anymore. However, I knew she wasn't the type to easily let things go. Sure enough, not long after, she began to change her ways. She went to tell the homeroom teacher and even wrote a post on the school forum exposing me, deliberately manipulating public opinion. The post was so exaggerated that I was portrayed as a bully, intentionally making things difficult for someone with weak health. But this time, things didn't go her way. Just mentioning the incident of 40 degrees without the air conditioner on was enough to make almost everyone laugh. Many who had experienced similar situations immediately sided with me, even openly criticizing Su Ruru. 3 years of enduring that is impressive. If I met this class, I'd probably faint on the spot. Public opinion was almost entirely one-sided. As for me, I maintained a calm demeanor on the surface, but in reality, I had secretly prepared beforehand. While everyone was still arguing, I quietly gathered evidence, recording all of her defamatory remarks. Then, I went directly to the police station near the school. The reason was simple: defamation and incitement to cyberbullying. On the day the incident was exposed, Su Ruoruo stood before me with a pale face, completely devoid of her previous arrogance. Beside her was the homeroom teacher, his expression a mixture of surprise and helplessness. "Shumeng," the teacher asked, "what exactly happened that you two had to go to such lengths?" I didn't say much. I just showed him the forum post. "Look, teacher, she's fabricated things to this extent. What else could I do?" Su Ruoruo immediately retorted, still trying to sound innocent. "When did I make things up? Isn't what you did true?" I didn't bother arguing further. With someone like her, words were meaningless. Because the situation wasn't too serious, the police decided to mediate. After some discussion, I calmly said, "I can let it go, but you must take responsibility for your words. Apologize to me." Initially, she refused, but under pressure from the homeroom teacher, and because it involved her graduation certificate, she finally relented. "I'm sorry, Shumeng." Her voice was so low it was almost inaudible. "I shouldn't have said such things online." I looked at her, raising my eyebrows. "And then what?" She clenched her fists, enunciating each word. "It was my fault. I'm sorry." I nodded, silently turning off the recording function on my phone. From the beginning, what I needed wasn't to win or lose in front of everyone, but a way out for myself. Since that day, Su Roro has completely changed. Every time she sees me, she avoids me like the plague, no longer displaying her former arrogance. But I know this isn't over yet. After the incident at the police station, things seem to have calmed down on the surface. Su Roro no longer openly caused trouble, nor did she dare raise her voice in front of me. But the occasional glances she cast, both evasive and ominous, made it clearer than any threat. She had never given up on her intention to retaliate. I didn't have time to dwell on it too much. My graduation thesis, internship, and all sorts of other tasks piled up, making time fly by so quickly I couldn't even breathe. The air conditioning in the classroom continued to function normally, returning to its original purpose. No one mentioned the past anymore, at least not on the surface. Until one morning, my phone vibrated incessantly. The usually quiet class group chat was suddenly disrupted by a barrage of messages. The sender? It was still Su Ruoruo. "Which bastard reported me?" "The public list ended 5 days ago, and I still haven't received the official notification. Of the 3 successful candidates, only I'm stuck." The words appeared hurried and chaotic, as if the person typing had lost all control. "I don't know who I've offended, but just say it. You're ruining my future." Was it Xu Meng? Or Liu Mingcheng? Or Lin Ya? The entire group chat fell silent. No one answered. Only she was performing alone, like someone standing in the middle of an empty stage, screaming and pushing herself into despair. I looked at the screen, slightly stunned. Actually, this outcome isn't entirely unexpected. Throughout her 4 years of university, Su Ruoruo practically left no one in peace. Not only in class, but also in the student council and various clubs, she caused trouble everywhere. Those who disliked her were never few in number. Not to mention, even before the official list of successful candidates was released, she was already boasting everywhere. Her posts were full of smugness, half boasting, half sarcastic remarks. She practically made herself a target. With just one person's intention, everything would fall apart sooner or later. Su Ruoruo continued messaging, her tone shifting from anger to pleading. "You all know how difficult it was for me to pass the civil service exam. Please stop ruining me, okay? If I'm wrong, I apologize. But no one responded. That silence was more terrifying than any criticism. Not long after, she came to see me. That day, I had just left class and was about to get some water when I was stopped right at the door. Su Ruo stood there, noticeably thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, her whole demeanor radiating exhaustion. "Did you report me?" she asked directly, her voice hoarse. I looked at her, feeling more amused than angry. "What accusation? Show me the evidence first." She bit her lip, her eyes full of suspicion. "That day in class, only you and Liu Mingcheng mentioned this. I asked him, and he said it wasn't me. So it's just you." I chuckled, unable to hide my sarcasm. "Don't you know how many enemies you've made in this school?" I stepped closer, my voice low but clear. "You conclude it's me just because of a few words? Where's the logic in that?" She was speechless, only able to gasp for breath like a cornered animal. I squeezed past her, intending to leave, but before continuing, I added, "If you've been accused, there must be a reason. No one would be so idle as to falsely accuse you." To Nyurk stood silently behind me, saying nothing more. A few days later, the person truly behind this came to me. Linya. She stood before me, her eyes calm, but deep within lay an emotion difficult to name, both cold and resolute. "You guessed right," she said directly. "I was the one who reported her." I wasn't surprised. "You know how she harmed me," Linya continued, her voice even. "I'm just returning what she deserved." She said she had directly called the finance department, providing information about Su Ruo's behavior, from slandering others to ethical and health issues. If someone like her gets a job, she'll only harm others later. I listened in silence, not refuting her. Then she looked at me and asked softly, "Do you think what I did was excessive?" I shook my head slightly. Some things, once they happen, are no longer simply about right and wrong. Not everyone is magnanimous enough to forgive. I took out my phone, played the recording from that day, when Su Ruo bowed her head in apology, and sent it to Linya. "It might help you." Linya looked at me, a fleeting look of gratitude in her eyes, then it quickly disappeared. We didn't say much more, but in that moment I understood. This story had reached a point of no return. And the price? Su Ruo had to pay, perhaps, was far from over. After giving the recording to Linya, I almost completely withdrew from Su Ruo's affairs. But even though I wanted to stay out of it, the storm she had created continued to spread, each wave back against her. The news from the finance department wasn't publicly released, but rumors in the school spread like wildfire. Some said there were accusations about her character. Others said there were problems in the background check process. Whatever the reason, the final outcome was the same. Su Ruo was suspended. A week later, the official news arrived. The position she thought she had secured was gone. The person ranked fourth was promoted to replace her. At that moment, the whole class held their breath before erupting. No one said anything directly, but everyone's eyes revealed an unconcealed emotion: glee, relief, and a little satisfaction. Su Ruo, however, was completely devastated. In the days that followed, she almost disappeared from the class. Occasionally, someone would see her in the library, head bowed low, hair covering her face, looking so haggard that she was almost unrecognizable. Gone was the arrogant beauty queen of yesteryear. Gone was the disdainful look in her eyes. Only a faint shadow remained in the crowd. On social media, she started posting status updates in the middle of the night. Have I not tried hard enough? Why is everyone against me? These unanswered questions repeated themselves in a vicious cycle. But life doesn't always give people easy chances to start over. Linya kept her promise. At first, I thought she was just saying it in anger. But no, she actually did it. Every social media platform Su Ruo used was closely monitored. Every time she applied for a job somewhere, Linya would almost immediately appear afterward, bringing evidence of her past. No fuss, no publicity. Just the right person, in the right place. and that was enough. The result was clear. No company wanted to hire someone with so many problems like Su Ruo. But no one wanted to get involved with someone like Lin Ya, who was willing to relentlessly pursue and expose others. The two of them, like two ends of a rope tightly bound together. Neither would let go, and neither would win. And as for us outsiders, we just silently watched. Time passed, and everyone gradually became busy with theses, internships, and preparing for graduation. The noisy stories of the past gradually faded into the background. Su Ruo still tried. It was said that she spent more than 10 hours a day in the library, studying for exams one semester after another. She threw herself into every recruitment opportunity like a moth to a flame. But the results remained unchanged. Applications were either rejected or met with silence. Some companies cited having enough applicants, some said they weren't suitable, and some even blatantly avoided her. Gradually, even she began to doubt herself. Her late-night status updates became more frequent, longer, and more desperate. Meanwhile, Lin Ya continued to silently observe, without fanfare or boasting, but without giving up. Graduation day arrived faster than expected. The campus was bathed in sunlight. Black graduation gowns fluttered in the wind, and laughter and chatter mingled with the incessant clicking of cameras. Everyone wanted to capture the last moments of their student life. Amidst the crowd, someone suddenly asked, "Hey, where's Su Ruo? I don't see her." The homeroom teacher turned around, his voice calm. She had family matters to attend to and went home early after receiving her diploma. You won't see her again. The words were spoken softly, yet they caused a few people to pause slightly. No one asked any further questions. Life went on. The class president called everyone to line up and checked attendance. Liu Ming-chung ran from the back of the line, his voice full of energy. "Everyone's here!" The sound of cameras clicking, click! In that moment, all the smiles were preserved, pure and radiant, as if there had never been any conflicts or clashes. I stood amidst the crowd, looking around, a strange feeling welling up inside me. 4 years of university, it turned out, had flown by so quickly. And as for Su Ruo, she had once been the center of so many stories, the object of everyone's attention, and held things that seemed so secure. But in the end, she was the one who lost everything with her own hands. Perhaps later her name will only be a legend, an example to remind others that some seemingly insignificant things, if handled incorrectly, can cost one's entire future. What you do, heaven sees. And sometimes, you don't need to wait for heaven. The human heart is enough to decide everything. After graduation, everything seemed to have come to an end. Familiar faces gradually dispersed, each going their own way, carrying their own baggage and memories that could never be repeated. My roommates and I lingered for a few more days, packing up our belongings and savoring our last moments on campus. That afternoon, we went down to the cafeteria. The sun outside blazed down, the heat radiating from the ground, making the air seem to vibrate. In stark contrast, the cafeteria was cool, crowded, and noisy. The aroma of food filled the air, and the sounds of ordering, the clinking of dishes, and chopsticks blended together into a familiar symphony of student life. We ordered the clay pot braised chicken, the ultimate dish of the cafeteria that everyone wanted to eat one last time before leaving school. With a few chilled bottles of soda, the group sat together, eating and chatting merrily. No one mentioned the past anymore, as if everything had truly been left behind, until a quarrel broke out at the food counter. At first, it was just a few loud words, but it quickly attracted the attention of everyone around. My friends immediately perked up, their eyes shining brightly, as if they'd caught a signal. In less than a few seconds, they all put down their chopsticks and pulled me up to approach. It turned out 2 girls were arguing about cutting in line. One was standing at the front, clearly having lined up earlier, while the other had deliberately cut in line, acting as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Such situations weren't uncommon at school. But what caught our attention was the next sentence from the girl who had cut in line. She didn't yell or struggle. She simply spoke softly, her tone strangely calm. "I know you. You're in the electrical engineering department, right? There aren't many girls in that department. I could easily find out your name with a few questions. The girl who had cut in line froze, her eyes wavering slightly. The other girl continued slowly, as if telling a story. Haven't you heard of Su Ruo from the Economics and Management Department? Just a name, but it was like a switch. The atmosphere around them instantly changed. Let me tell you, she looked directly at the other girl, her voice still even. Right now, you've only secured a spot before me. But what you could lose later is your future and your job. The girl who had cut in line stiffened. Because I'll remember your face, she continued, her eyes cold and sharp. I'll be watching you. Whether you take the civil service exam, graduate school, get a job, or open a shop, I'll know. She paused for a moment, then asked again, each word clear. So now, do you still want to cut in line? A brief silence ensued. Under the gaze of everyone around her, the girl who had cut in line clenched her fists, her lips pressed together, and finally, without saying a word, turned and walked away. The crowd around them immediately burst into laughter. Not mocking laughter, but a hearty laugh, as if they had just witnessed a perfectly fitting lesson. We ordered the clay pot braised chicken, the ultimate dish of the cafeteria that everyone wanted to eat one last time before leaving school. With a few chilled bottles of soda, the group sat together, eating and chatting merrily. No one mentioned the past anymore, as if everything had truly been left behind. Until a quarrel broke out at the food counter. At first, it was just a few loud words, but it quickly attracted the attention of everyone around. My friends immediately perked up, their eyes shining brightly, as if they'd caught a signal. In less than a few seconds, they all put down their chopsticks and pulled me up to approach. It turned out two girls were arguing about cutting in line. One was standing at the front, clearly having lined up earlier, while the other had deliberately cut in line, acting as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Such situations weren't uncommon at school, but what caught our attention was the next sentence from the girl who had cut in line. She didn't yell or struggle. She simply spoke softly, her tone strangely calm. I know you. You're in the electrical engineering department, right? There aren't many girls in that department. I could easily find out your name with a few questions. The girl who had cut in line froze, her eyes wavering slightly. The other girl continued slowly, as if telling a story. Haven't you heard of Su Ruo from the Economics and Management Department? Just a name, but it was like a switch. The atmosphere around them instantly changed. Let me tell you. She looked directly at the other girl, her voice still even. Right now, you've only secured a spot before me. But what you could lose later is your future and your job. The girl who had cut in line stiffened. Because I'll remember your face, she continued, her eyes cold. I'll be watching you. Whether you take the civil service exam, graduate school, get a job, or open a shop, I'll know. She paused for a moment, then asked again, each word clear. So now, do you still want to cut in line? A brief silence passed. Under the gaze of everyone around, the girl who had cut in line clenched her fists, her lips pressed together, and finally, without saying a word, turned and left. The crowd around immediately burst into laughter. It wasn't mocking laughter, but a hearty laugh, as if they had just witnessed a perfectly reasonable lesson. We couldn't help but laugh too, returning to our table while laughing until our stomachs ached. Oh my God, these juniors are really fierce now, one of my group said, laughing. They're even using a legend as a living example, another added. If Su Ruo knew, she'd be furious. I just smiled, saying nothing. The sun outside was still blazing, but I felt a strange sensation in my heart, a sense of relief, tranquility, as if a long chapter had finally come to an end. There are people who, whether they like it or not, will become lessons for others. Not because they are special, but because of the choices they have made. And the name To Nyurk Nyurk will probably be mentioned for a long time as an invisible reminder that in this life, not everything can be done arbitrarily according to one's own will. That there are things that seem insignificant, like turning on an air conditioner on a hot summer day, but can lead to unexpected consequences. And that, when people no longer accept things, even without divine intervention, everything will still reach its conclusion.